problema ng OFW sa testing, quarantine at pag-uwi at malinaw na ba ang direksyon sa pag-aalay sa ating mga bagong bayani? Makakausap po natin ngayong gabi si Overseas Workers Welfare Administration Administrator Hans Kakdak. Magandang gabi po, Administrator. Administrator Kakdak, sir? Alright, medyo hindi ko naririnig si Administrator Kakdak. Administrator Hans Kakdak ng OWA, are you on the line, sir?
Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
sir? Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes po, yes po.
O, sige po. Umpisa na po natin, Administrator Kakdak. Umpisahan po natin sa mga OFW na kausap po ng aming reporter na si Tristan Rodalo dyan sa NAIA 2. No? So pumunta sila ng NAIA for a flight pero wala pa palang flight. So ang lumalabas po nito parang first come, first served po ba yun? Nagpapalista lang sila pagdating sa airport para po silang mga chance passenger. Yan po ba yung nangyayari?
Hindi naman po. Nagpupunta sila dito, nagpapalista sila kung ano yung destination nila, and then we arrange the charter flights for them. And that's exactly what happened yesterday, and that's what's happening today. Sa ngayon, we're here working out the charter flights. We're also trying to fix some more charter flights this evening.
Okay, you said hindi naman, pero nagpapalista pa rin sila and then ina-arrange nyo pa yung mga charter flights. But, well, kanina nga sabi ng isa na nakuha din naman daw nila yung flight papuntang Bacolod, pero at naayos din naman yon, pero hindi lang po ito yung bulilyaso, no, kung pwede natin tawagin yon. Kasi for example, meron po kaming nakausap last Thursday, itong si Jojo Andol na tiga Antique, April 25 dumating, May 11 nasa lumipat mula World Trade Center papunta sa isang hotel sa Quezon City. May 23, so 1 month since he arrived, finally nasa barko siya pauwi ng Antique. Ano po yung nangyayari, Administrator Kakdak? Bakit po isang buwan sila tumatagal dito sa Metro Manila?
Oo. I think kailangan tayo kung ganyan ng tanong ay kailangan mag-backtrack tayo sa mga pangyayari, ano. April 13, March 15 nagkaroon ng ECQ, and at that time pwede ang home quarantine, and April 13 nagkaroon ng mandatory quarantine. All OFWs have to go to quarantine facilities, 14-day quarantine, and after 14 days they could go home kung taga Luzon NCR. And at that time, just like the March arrivals, hirap tayo nung Visayas, Mindanao kasi the LGUs won't allow them entry back. And then April 27, ipinataw yung mandatory swab testing, and doon hindi kaagad na makakauwi yung mga nakatapos ng 14 days before April 27. Kasi meron ng swab testing bago man umuwi, whether it's Luzon, NCR, or whether it's Visayas, Mindanao destinations. After that, isinaayos ng National Task Force yung mass testing capability, yung kits. Yung mass testing ng OFWs. OFWs are prioritized, but the mass testing of OFWs started mga May 3rd. And in the case of those in OWA hotels, around, let's say, 8,000 of them, mga May 5, nagsimula yung testing, and we got up to around that number, no, swab testing. Libre lahat yon, yung swab testing na ginawa ng Coast Guard. And then,
Administrator.
And then, nung time, wait, I'm explaining because you're asking me about the history. You went back, so I'm going back as well. So nung May 5 nagsagawa ng testing. So we waited for the results, and the results started streaming in May 14. So this timeline explains yung weight, 28,000 yung swab tested, the volume of those who were tested. It's not a job to undertake swab testing. There are medical protocols behind swab testing. One must not uh, be so haphazard in terms of the testing. Hindi pwedeng madaliin kasi may medical protocols. Yung results came in May 14 and onward, and now it's time to transport them home kasi naglabasan na yung BOQ certificates and then yung PCG negative test results. So transport home began last week. We transported 9,000 through sea voyages and chartered flights, sweeper flights. So with the presidential directive na heighten yung pagsasagawa ng charter flights, we mounted 18 yesterday and we'll mount about the same number today. And ang buses doubled from 21 to around 50 today in PITX. And there is also a charter voyage through to go set to sail starting tomorrow morning. So the transport process is underway. I think the sheer volume that we handled in this national emergency, which we're all going through for the first time in our history, is something that really had to be reckoned with, and we're still reckoning with it today kasi nga volume pa rin ang pinag-uusapan.
Right. Well, Administrator Kakdak, like you said, no, so testing. Jojo Andol and his companions were tested May 11, May 12, but they got their certifications from the Coast Guard May 20, May 20 Wednesday evening. So there is a
Yeah.
backlog in testing. There is a backlog in the release of the certificates from Coast Guard also.
Yes, you know what? We could sit around here and pinpoint fault or blame or backlogs and whatnot. But as I said, ito a national emergency that we're all going through. That the sheer volume, the protocols of testing and processing of test results are not a easy thing to do. So now we're here with the transport stage, and we're facing operational issues in transport, mass transport. You would say this is like a mass exodus. So we are dealing with the problem on a ground and operational level. It's unprecedented in our nation's history. We just have to deal with these operational problems, take them head on. We're booking flights for people who cannot be booked at the moment, and we will book some more flights and charter voyages till everybody leaves.
We've heard a lot of the stories, Administrator Kakdak, about how, like for example, these OFWs that we've been speaking to, no, how they Saturday yung isa was on board a vessel, a to-go vessel, on the way home to Antique. Yung isa was boarding a flight home to Mindanao, but it appears like is that precisely dahil may ultimatum si Pangulo at precisely dahil may utos na si Secretary Galvez na empty those hotels in 3 days, that is why all of a sudden we are parang playing catch up. Is that what is happening now?
No, we're not. We're not playing catch up. We just had to deal with the process of having to have the BOQ certifications issued for about 2 weeks or so. The results in the BOQ certifications issued for 2 weeks or so. Last week, the certification started streaming in. OWA had managed to transport around 9,000 last week, but now we're seeing that with the chartered flights and with the buses and the voyages, we're seeing that the DOTR has stepped in to help us out. So this is something that, again, is a very welcome development. Yes, it takes time to transport them, and the presidential directive helps a lot because we get things done easier, and we get the mounted flights up there on the board, including the buses and the voyages.
Mm-hmm. Administrator Kakdak, a lot of people wonder if, we are going to presume that the roles of, for example, syempre, OWA, Coast Guard, Bureau of Quarantine, and all the other agencies that are involved dito sa yung pag-alaga ng mga OFWs, bringing them home, are very well defined, and we are presuming that everyone is playing those roles, nagagampanan yung mga papel na yon. Pero we are also presuming na meron namang talagang coordination, right? Meaning the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. Everything is in sync, right?
Yes,
Because then
I
if that is the case, so bakit ganito nangyayari, administrator? What is going, because
what's
well,
going
our
on,
worry is like you said, okay, so this is not catch up, but there's 45,000 more that are coming in.
yeah, what's going on is we really need to come to grips with the reality that this has to be a mass domestic repatriation, mass exodus of OFWs from Manila. And we have to deal with this squarely, and we have to have all hands on deck. It's a whole of government approach. We have very strong interagency coordination at the IATF and our sub-task group level on repatriation, the National Task Force headed by General Charlie. So what matters is that we are at a stage where we have heightened our capabilities. We're better and are stronger in terms of coordination. And right now we're seeing the results with the 9,000 that were transported last week. Last night alone we had 3,000, and we're putting up more numbers on the board, and we're hoping to meet the targets very soon.
Well, Administrator Hans Kakdak of OWA, I guess what also matters is yung welfare. After all, yan po yung pangalan ng ahensya niyo, Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. Administrator Kakdak, maraming salamat po sa inyo. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Salamat po, ma'am.